Now, you have actually helped define the posts. Now, we have the goal posts now, so let's see who actually will be scoring the goals and who actually will be back kicking for us. Now, if leadership, therefore, is not properly attuned to these outlines that you have provided for us, what role will that leaders be playing in this equation? That means there is no future for Nigerian children.
You see, when you look at chapter 2 of the Constitution, I wish every Nigerian can just read chapter 2. Forget about
all the other.
Forget about chapter 4. Because people talk a lot about chapter 4. Chapter 4 is the chapter that contains fundamental human rights. But chapter 2 is the primary objective, operating objective of the Constitution. As a matter of fact, it is what laid the legal framework for the existence of Nigeria. Nigeria needs to be existing for you to talk about human rights. You can't talk about human rights in Syria. You can't talk about human rights in Somalia. When Al-Shabaab has sacked that country for 21 years, you can't talk about human rights recently in Iraq, where the country has been sacked and insurgents are moving in
everywhere.
They are taking over, and the government is clueless. The international community is talking. In Libya, you can't talk about human rights. The country needs to be settled first of all before you can talk about human rights, and that is why chapter 2 focused entirely on the objective of state. Why does government exist? And section 14 says the security and the welfare of the people shall be the primary aim of government.
The security
and the welfare of the people shall be the primary aim of government, which means we are not supposed to judge government by manifesto. We are supposed to judge their manifesto by
what for those things. Yes.
How does this advance the security of the people and the welfare? You know why the Constitution is thinking like that? It is to support the principle of social contract. In the state of nature, life was brutish, nasty, and short, according to Thomas Hobbes. And because life was brutish, nasty, and short, the inhabitants of the state of nature were looking for a way forward. And early thinkers like Rousseau and the rest of them were thinking and saying, okay, how do we advance? And they came with this idea of we need to have a state. In that state, we have a government. At that point, the rule of law came in, and the rule of force, which was the survival of the fittest, ceases to be. And so they say, okay, how do we do? Let's form a government. Let the government be in charge of the state. Let's put all our power in the hand of the state, so that there's no one person that will be more powerful than the state. The state will become more powerful. So how do we do? We need a police. How do we fund it? We need to pay tax. So we put some money in there the same way we are paying for our association dues now in our street.
Yes.
You need to put something there so that we can run. All of us are going to be busy about our business, going about our business. But there are some people we have appointed or elected to be in charge of our homes, and to be in charge of our schools, in charge of our road, in charge of our electricity. They need to be paid. So you bring something called tax so that we can put it there so that these people can be paid. And that's the whole idea of state. Now, what will be the responsibility of these people? They are supposed to take away those things that bothered us in the state of nature. They must not bother us again. In the state of nature, there was no security. In the state of nature, there was no welfare. So let these guys be responsible for that. And that is why our Constitution, 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, though it was fostered by the military, was kind enough to recognize that, to say the welfare and the security of the people shall be the aim of government. Sir, if you have security, if you have welfare, you are robust. You live very well. You live in a mansion. But you don't have security. Your welfare is useless. If you have security and you don't have welfare, are you going to chop security? So both must be going hand in hand for us to say we are advancing as a nation. But when that is not happening, then government has lost its bearing completely. And when government loses its bearing, when two elephants fight, it is the grass that do suffer. In this case, the grass are the children,
yes,
who are not in a place of self-determination. They cannot take decisions for themselves until they are 18. They are still children. So they need to lean on you and I. They need to lean on the family. They need to lean on the state. They need to lean on the community. They need to lean on the international community. They need to lean on their peers for them to be able to to be able to survive and be protected. But there appears to be a major hole, a major misunderstanding, a major lack of commitment to these ideals that give birth to an ideal nation. And please note, we cannot discuss child's rights and child protection in isolation. we must discuss it vis-a-vis the existing structures within our nation, particularly social structures that provide social welfare. Let me give you an example.
Now, before we look at the example, we must quickly, lock this with what is happening currently in the country.
Okay.
If we do know that the rights of children, the security of the environment, the social structure that should absorb, some of the pains, of growing up, should be provided by government. Won't you say, therefore, that this Boko Haram insurgency has just been given some meal by the absence of all these things in the environment?
Well, history is clear. Insurgents, in most cases, is always a product of disgruntled citizens who don't have a stake in the system, or who believe they don't have a stake in the system. And because they don't have a stake in the system, they don't see the benefit of the system. Yoruba has a proverb, when it that is, a man who is leprous
will not be able
to make milk, but he can spill it. He can spill it. So that is the issue. The truth of the matter is that, and also look at the issue of insurgency anywhere in the world. Afghanistan, despite the incursion of the United Nations after 9/11, sending troops and the rest of it, just last week, one of the presidential candidates
was taken out.
Nearly just escaped death. His bodyguard was killed. Almost everybody with it was killed. Despite the US is already pulling out. They have a pull-out plan. See, same thing in Pakistan. These guys sacked the entire airport. So when you look at it, you find out that in any nation where the gap between the have and the have-not is almost indescribable and countless in miles, where people don't share the same sense of belonging. Because if you say somebody is a citizen, sir, a citizen must have 3 rights. If you say you are a citizen of Nigeria, you must, number one, you must have 3 powers. If you say you are a citizen, number one, citizen, the power to elect your leaders, to choose, to determine who becomes your leader. Do you have it? Number 2, power, the power to have access to basic amenities of life, shelter, food, clothing, education, shelter of the body, shelter over your head, health. When those things are there, that you say, I'm a citizen, then the last power that you must have is the power to enjoyment of the resources of state, particularly the state that now has mineral resources. Enjoyment of state. How many Nigerians, for God's sake, sir, can go on the holidays? Even middle class, or
go for leisure time.
Leisure time. Middle class has crashed. You are coming from Okokomaiko. You are coming to NTA. Now, you need to stay in traffic for a number of time. Now, we were in Badagry. We were talking to children who are in conflict, who are said to be in conflict with the law. For them now, there's no family court in Badagry. Now, when you want to take those children to court in Apapa, you have to travel from Badagry to Apapa, and if they wanted to go on that journey, that child will have been on the road from 4:30 in the morning or 4 o'clock, so that they can. Now, and when you get to Okoko, the bottlenecks, the bad roads and the rest of them, and this child who you said is conflict with the law has been in traffic for almost 4 hours or thereabout before he will get to Apapa, where he's going to be attended to, and before he's moved back to that back home. Now, in some climes, you can predict your movement because the transportation system is settled. It works. So this is the issue. The issue is, if you don't have those rights, if parents don't have it, how can they give it to their children?